Welcome to the Faith on the Homefront podcast. Today we have Dr. Dawson Hull with us, and we'll be talking a little bit about traditions and how we see those playing out in our own homes. And I want to put a little disclaimer going into this. If there are children listening, I recommend that you wait and let your parents listen to this podcast first, and if they're good with it, then let you listen to it. All right? Now you're out of the room? Okay, good. Now, we're going to talk about several traditions and things that go along with our last night's lesson. So if you've not listened to that yet or watched that yet, please do that. Dr. Hull, I want to talk just a brief moment with you. You just celebrated quite a milestone in your life and want to get a chance to say congratulations, but tell us a little bit about what you just finished.
Sure, thanks. So I just finished my Doctor of Musical Arts degree at the University of Memphis, and basically what that is, of course, a lot of people are familiar with what a PhD is. It's a research degree, and a Doctor of Musical Arts, or a DMA degree, is a performance degree. It's one that musicians that are more into the performance side, there is still research involved, but ones that are actively performing would get that terminal degree in their field, and so you do have to write a dissertation, which that's the kind of the main chunk that I just finished. But and then there's a performance. I had to do 3 recitals and take all of these exams and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was kind of one of those things that some people finish it in 2, 3, 4 years. Some people, it took me 5 years, and so.
But while being a husband and a dad and a full-time pastor, and
it was. And they were all thankfully very supportive during that time. They always understood that, sometimes if we were all maybe watching a movie together, I was there with them, but I've got my laptop and I'm typing away and stuff like that. So it took a pandemic, but I did finally finish the dissertation.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You are a blessing to this church family. So tonight we want to kind of unpack what we talked about in the sermon last night of traditions and how our holidays help shape us. And as often, I like to start with talking about kind of the traditions or the things that may have impacted us growing up. And so as you look back over your childhood and as you were listening to last night's sermon, what are some of the things that stood out as powerful in shaping you?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm very thankful for was just to have a family that we were tight, we're close-knit. I have an older brother and a younger sister, so we're a family of 5. And, this is kind of an interesting relationship now, even with my dad, kind of because he is a worship pastor, and so the relationship that he and I have, as I have kind of followed into his career footsteps in a way, has been neat. But when I think about our times at home, and when I think about our times as a family together, especially around the holidays, there are certain memories and kind of flashbacks that I have, but the overall narrative is that the 5 of us were together, whether it was sitting around the table, eating a special meal, or doing something together as a family, and then often when we would take a trip or something like that, it was to go visit our extended family. We didn't really have extended family close by, and so that was always kind of a vacation time when we would go see them. So many of the holidays we would be on the road, like in Oklahoma or something like that, traveling and celebrating with them.
For us, a lot of times, the piece that stands out is how all the family came together. I grew up, part of my life, my grandmother raised me, so it was kind of the coming together of all the generations into one place, and everything kind of stopped to make priority for the coming together. And that was special. That was neat. And the piece the priority of being together, I think I've brought with me and see that as a priority. So that's kind of looking back, the impact. Now, I know it's always interesting when a husband and wife come together in a marriage and they each are bringing their own family traditions and their own way of doing things for holidays. What was that like for you and Tania?
It's interesting because Tania and I are very different. If when we take the Myers-Briggs test, we're like incompatible on paper, but
complementary.
Complementary, exactly. And so that's been kind of one of the cool things is that we have in our premarital counseling and all of that stuff we learn to make those differences complement each other. My weaknesses and her strengths step in and stuff like that. So notice that I didn't say her weaknesses.
Right. You're a wise man.
That's right. I'm learning. But anyways, the when we came together, of course, and her family in a lot of ways is similar to mine in that they were very, very close. She maintains a very close relationship with her siblings. But there are certain things like Christmas morning. They had, this is just an example, there was always a special breakfast that her family would have or have with some of their extended family, and there's kind of some fixtures on the menu. And so that has kind of been something that we, since we've been married, we have incorporated that into our celebration time, things to look forward to. And then some of these things, this isn't necessarily a spiritual thing, but what presents are, when our presents opened for Christmas in particular, this present is unwrapped. What goes in the stocking? These kinds of gifts go in stocking. These presents are wrapped. These are opened on Christmas Eve and stuff like that. And so there were some differences and things that we kind of had to learn and adapt, and this we incorporated from her family, this we incorporated from our family. So, and then there are some things that we have begun as traditions that are, new, just originated with our family.
So out of context, remind me, you're from this area, she's not. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, large geographic difference. Are there some part of the country cultural background differences that you saw?
Well, of course, one of the things is that, it's a lot warmer here. She's from South Dakota, so and I've been there for a couple of Christmases. In fact, last Christmas we went there, and but culturally, it's interesting. Even though it's not the South. Her family and my family, there are a lot of similarities, and the people there. It's kind of like your small town there. Now, we talk in different ways. There's some different accents, but we kind of found that one of the prevailing thread in both of our families that made us similar, despite our the ways that we talked and things like that, was faith and the priority and importance of faith. And so that really kind of made lessened a lot of the cultural things.
Because you know what the priorities were. You had a common priority.
Exactly.
Courtney and I'm from North Carolina, and Courtney was from Florida. One of the things that set us on a possibly easier course in some ways was because as soon as we got married, we were immediately 8 hours away from my family and 12 hours away from her family. It kind of removed. That's hard, but at the same time, it removed some of the tension of, well, whose house do we go to for Christmas morning, and who do we go to for the Christmas Eve? And it let us have the opportunity to create our own ways of doing things. And even later, we tried to kind of alternate, and we'd go visit one before or after Christmas. And but early, even our very first Christmas together, we got married on December 18th. So we got married immediately, went on our honeymoon, and we spent our honeymoon, we had Christmas over our honeymoon, and we were in Montana. We were away from everybody and began to establish our own ways of doing things. And that doesn't mean that we didn't pull some traditions that she had and some traditions I had, but we tried to evaluate and look at them and what's helpful, what points us to Christ. And sometimes we didn't really stop and think about that until years down the road, and it had already become something special to us. And so it becomes hard once we start layering in all the other good things, and especially when you add kids to the picture. I imagine that for us, and I'm sure for you all as well, brought to light more areas to try to talk through and make decisions on how you as a couple would lead your home.
Yeah, it did, and we're almost the very very similar, because like, in the same way that I grew up with all of my extended family being out of state. It was the same way for once we got married. My parents were 8 hours away. Our first home was in Georgia, and my parents are from here in West Tennessee, so that was 8 hours, and then we were about 20 hours from South Dakota. And one of the things that we noticed, or just it was almost without even thinking, okay, here's for Christmas we'll go to, either my family. We came to Tennessee just about every Christmas, and there was one Christmas that we flew to South Dakota. But one of the things that we kind of noticed after the first couple of years of marriage was that we kind of always were with other family, with our extended family, my parents or her parents or something like that. And not that was a problem. We loved that. We loved, especially since we you had to get on an airplane or a long car ride to go see family. But I noticed, especially once we had children, and this is maybe Briley is 8 now, and so maybe about when she was 2, where we decided that yes, we still want to continue to visit family, but we want to make sure to establish our identity as our own family, as and then when Braden came as a family of 4, so that the 4 of us are a complete unit, and we didn't always have to, in order to have a true, time, to really mark the celebration, we need to be together with family. And I think in retrospect, those first few years of marriage, when it was just the 2 of us, we could have done a better job at protecting that seeing that as a whole unit, and not necessarily something that always needed to be attached to something else in order to have a complete, to feel like you've really had a complete holiday or adequate celebration.
So here comes the potentially touchy conversation piece. How did y'all deal with Santa? Is that something that you had growing up as a child? Is it something that Tania did? And how do y'all as your home? That's always that to me one of those traditions that is pervasive, and I just wonder how have y'all managed that?
What do you mean?
Santa Claus, and
are you saying something weird?
Does your Santa Claus have like a long beard or a short beard?
Are you saying like he's not? What do you say? I thought I'd give you a scare there. I've lived 36 years of my life thinking. Yeah, no, it's definitely something that we've had discussion about, and I was kind of hinting on that when does Santa Claus wrap his presents and stuff like that. There have been some things like that, but and we're still, as a family, we do have Santa Claus in our celebration. And Santa Claus comes for us, and he fills the stockings and stuff like that. And we always enjoy going to the town square in Collierville, and thankfully he's the same every year. And the kids write letters to him and stuff like that. But one of the things that we've just made sure to at the same time, it's not a either or in these young years, in these early years of their life, is to yes, this is a facet of our celebration, but we prioritize, and just constantly remind to point back to the true reason that we're celebrating, and the entire reason why we give gifts at Christmas time is because the greatest gift that the world has ever received is the gift of new life in Christ. When Jesus came to the earth as a baby, that God's Christmas present to all those who would believe and received God's Christmas present to the world. And so not all of the gifts are from Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gift from us. This is from your parents. This is from Mom. They when we give them gifts, we it's fun because you give the gift and then you like to tell the story about, okay, I went to here, and I made this. And Tania, one of the things that her love language is or at least her gift giving love language is in crafting. She loves to craft things, and she gets all these elaborate plans, and we have all of these things that in our homes, gifts to our children that she has built. And but we use all of that as an illustration of the labor of love and gift giving as a picture, an illustration of God's gifts to the world.
So you've taken a tradition, but then woven into it the real meaning, so it's not distracting from the purpose of Christmas.
Exactly.
In our household, Courtney and I both grew up, Santa was a big part of Christmas, but in different ways. For me, it was Santa, you walk in and all the presents are there. They're not wrapped. There's just this big display, and it's exciting. And for her, they were wrapped. And it was, we kind of talked about that. When we started having kids, we went the route of evaluating that tradition. And for us, and I'm not saying this is a norm, nor is it what everyone should do, but for us, we felt like there were so many other ways that powerfully point to the cross and point to the manger, point to Jesus, that we almost didn't have room for one more thing. Mm-hmm. And so we don't include Santa in on. Now, we don't downplay it to anybody else. We make sure our kids enter into that fun with their friends, but it's not part of our traditions. We talk about the origins of St. Nicholas and the picture that he was and his love for children and how that points us to the gospel, but it's not part of our celebrations. And so in your case, you kind of refined things to point to the gospel. For us, it was more we removed because we had so many other things. We just didn't want to cloud it and to add to the stress and all that goes along with the holidays. There's so many other good things that for us, it's not a part of our celebrations directly.
Yeah, it is. And we're still navigating through that, and it is because I know it makes for a difficult conversation later to have,
especially when you have an older one and a younger one.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we are, where they begin expressing doubt, and and of course I'll look at Tania and say, so does this make us out to be liars? So you lied, but it's kind of one of those things that I agree. It's like a fireplace. You have to be. It's something that can be special and stuff like that if you choose to use it, but at the same time you have to be careful with it to not let it overwhelm that room. We're talking about a fireplace. Fire can be dangerous. I'm not saying Santa Claus is dangerous or anything like that, and but it's I agree, and I've of course, and I've talked to people from other faiths that don't celebrate Christmas at all, and because the reason I remember talking with someone that said, I don't have anything to do with Christmas. They said they believed in Christ and in Jesus, but they said Christmas that has Santa Claus and all of that doesn't have anything to do.
Commercialism.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. It's kind of, yes, that things have gotten so far removed. It's we've just come through Black Friday and Cyber Monday and stuff like that, and it's just that the consumerism. There's so much things that and I've never seen the actual statistic of it. What people spend on those days. Is it actually for gifts for other people, or are they buying things for themselves? And I'm not saying that that's wrong if you bought anything on those days, but I think it's so easy to focus on that, and for any even the most innocent tradition is or celebration is still in danger of becoming the focus
Yes.
instead of the actual reason that you're celebrating. So I think it's great, obviously, to celebrate Christmas, but it's very important to realize that all of these things can crowd out the one
real
that we're
purpose.
celebrating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So this holiday season is going to be very different. With COVID and all that's happening, it's going to be a challenge for all of us, and especially folks who are apart from their family, who are at high risk, who feel like they can't be around people. It could be a very painful season for many people, and I know it's not a replacement, but thinking of ways to still capture those moments. I know folks are sick of hearing about Zoom, but for many, that's going to be the best way they get to celebrate and to see faces and to enjoy. I suspect there are many people who might even use Zoom this year because they don't ever get to travel to see family, but you know what? This year, everybody else is doing that. Let me try this. And it might bring together some families that in the past haven't been able to be together. How do you think in your family, will this affect you all much?
Likely it will, just because we've already had, and even our Thanksgiving, we ended up having planned to celebrate with family, with extended family, and then instead we celebrated the four of us and Zoomed with my family and then later with Tania's family. And I think I know it's people. It was kind of a thing that was novel at the beginning, and and then everyone, school was on Zoom, church was on Zoom, everything was on the screen, and it was like, don't let your kids have too much screen time. But here,
everything's on the screen now.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's something that is not that's not, it's not a replacement for, like you said, for the real thing. But one thing that I've seen, at least in our family, is that we've been a little more intentional because it's a scheduled time. With our family, we have a text thread. And Tania's family, especially because she's one of five children. One of four children. They're all married. They're all over. We're in Tennessee. She's got a brother and his wife in Montana, somewhere in South Dakota, in Indiana. So they're spread out. My family, we're in. My brother's in Germany as a FedEx pilot. And so we don't see them much. But sometimes when we have these ways to talk with them, whether it be text or for the times that I found us being more intentional to say, hey, let's have a time of conversation and just to see each other, and it's sometimes we have wished that we could be one of those families that the both sets of parents are right here in town. You've got built-in babysitters. It just sounds like a dream. I think we've talked about this before too, and just like, but God's design for our family has been that we're a spread out family. But I think that either way, whether you're close or whether you're far, whether you have to Zoom for for Christmas or for any holiday, or whether you're in person, that we can that communication, that intentionality of togetherness, like you were talking about in your last night, is so important, because it maintains that relationship that and that distance can sometimes get in the way of.
And then on top of that, we have our church family. As you and I both are away from families, we have this family to be a part of. And whether someone's household is one person or two, they're still part of this family, and us encouraging each other and phone calls and staying connected as a body of believers, loving each other and pointing each other to the gospel of Christ, pointing each other to this Christmas season, the incarnation, and how special that is.
That's right, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week as we talk about ministry. See you then.